that Ms. Crow claims her late son, J.C. Turner, is her baby daddy, just so she can get death benefits. However, Ms. Crow says her son Thomas is a result of the love she and J.C. shared while he was alive. Let us find out more.
Ms. Crow, you have summoned the defendant to court to prove that her deceased son, J.C. Turner, fathered your 2-year-old son, Thomas. You want Thomas to know who his father is, and you say that Ms. Reinhardt has done everything she can to sabotage your efforts. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Reinhardt, you state that Ms. Crow is a liar and a manipulator.
It's always difficult to get through a case where the alleged father is dead because we don't get to hear his side of the story. Now, all we've got is what his mom knows, or what she thinks she knows.
It is more than just the money. I would like help with my son, yes, of course, but my son cannot grow up and meet his father. So he deserves that right to know who his father is and to know who his family is.
And to this point, he doesn't have any real knowledge of his father. You have not talked to him about his father, or have you?
I have.
You have?
Actually, when my son was first born and he was, just a few months old.
It's nice of Ms. Crow to give father and son the opportunity to bond over the phone, but I'm curious to find out the rest of the story. How did JC's mom know nothing about this? Well, there is only one way to find out.
Looking at that picture,
I understand.
my son and I had a very tight relationship, and Jay would tell me everything when nobody else was around. I knew my son inside and out, and I just don't, as a mother, as a grandmother, having 4 babies of my own, my gut tells me this is not my grandson.
It looks like it's going to be a tough one because Ms. Reinhardt isn't even on the fence about it. She is totally confident the baby is not her grandchild. But why? How could she possibly be so sure?
We had, became inseparable. We, developed, feelings, and it did happen all too fast. He did ask me to be his girlfriend, and we did have unprotected sex as well. So there's no doubt in my mind that Jay's the father. I did not sleep with anybody else in that time. When I was with him, to me, there's no other option.
Although her relationship with JC was fast-paced, the progression was pretty normal. 2 people met, fell in love, slept together, and the woman got pregnant. Ms. Crow's story is quite convincing.
He told him the sky was purple.
Well, that's your own
That's
your own
the
opinion.
mental capacity of a 16-year-old.
And and you know what? He had feelings.
He was schizophrenic.
He had feelings.
He was schizophrenic, and he had stress seizures.
And I took care of him.
And my son,
I didn't
very
leave him
close
because
to
of that.
his mom. And she could have told him she was pregnant. That's his baby.
So you're saying he did not have the discernment to even say, I don't believe that's my baby?
No.
Now this is hilarious for so many reasons. Ms. Reinhardt's little technique to identify her grandchildren is just ridiculous. Besides, the pictures look identical, don't they? That baby looks like grandma to me. But again, we cannot be so sure.
He has a silly sense of humor like Jay. He likes to dance like Jay. And, just right there, you can see it. Like his hair, that is Jay. And, there are things about him that are a lot like me. But at the same time, you cannot deny that. That's his father.
Ms. Reinhardt says the baby doesn't look like her. And Ms. Crow's like, that's okay because the baby looks like his father. Even though both metrics don't matter in the long run, Ms. Crow currently has the upper hand.
I have a bowed left leg. My daughter has a bowed left leg. JC was pigeon-toed from birth. So JC lived being severely pigeon-toed all his life.
And you believe this baby does not have that characteristic, which furthers your doubt?
To my understanding.
Here we go again with all the features. Can we please cut to the chase and be serious for once? This is no joking matter. This grandma needs to understand that the case is more serious than this.
He told everybody that we would come across, friends, even people we didn't know he had conversations with. She's pregnant with my baby. He's really happy. He's excited. He never denied my child. And I knew for a fact that, he's the father because I haven't been with anybody else. I was only with him in that time frame.
Ms. Crow made a good choice in breaking up with JC for the safety of herself and her 2 other kids. But how come nobody mentioned these kids until now? guess they're not so relevant to the case.
My boyfriend. That's not his father. He was Jamaican. Does he look half Jamaican? And you know, I lost my father the same year my son lost his father. So there's no reason why I would be up here for no reason. I'm doing this for my son. My son has the right to know, and Jay has, you know, health issues, and we need to know about your health history for your family, because what if it can help my son when he gets older?
You can tell Ms. Reinhardt is trying so hard to look for proof that the baby's not JC's. Now she brings up the issue of Ms. Crow's Jamaican boyfriend when the baby doesn't even look the least bit Jamaican.
I took care of my
I
kid.
guess the question then becomes, why is your pursuit different in death than it was in life?
What?
Meaning, after the death, you had the means, the time, the wherewithal,
She's
the
always had
initiative to find the benefits, find the DNA. You want your child to know his father.
Now that is one tough question. You broke up with the man, and he only hung out with his son once. You had 9 months before he passed, but didn't do anything until you saw his obituary?
I didn't even know when the baby was born because I wasn't contacted.
Jay knew.
Jay knew. He's
knew.
supposedly the alleged father, not.
It don't have to be alleged, because we're gonna find out today.
So,
You're gonna
listen.
see for yourself.
Yes, we are.
Yes, and then I can let my scab. I can let my scab build back
Because
up.
it's all about
I'm
you,
the one
right?
that took-
It's about my son.
It is glaring how much these two women can't stand themselves. And it is sad, because they're losing sight of what matters at the moment, the baby. Their arguments are both valid, but the baby's paternity is at stake.
How do you lose track of him?
That's your son.
He was mad with me because he believed that I was stealing his money. I was the one making sure his bills were paid. I was the one making sure he had a.
But when she left and he was evicted,
He had a
and I was
two-bedroom-
there and he had no money, he didn't have
He
nowhere
had
to go.
money all
I
the-
paid for him a place to stay.
Good question, because we can't push all the blame on Ms. Crow. Ms. Reinhardt was his mother at the end of the day. And if indeed he had the mental capacity of a 16-year-old, how did she leave him all alone?
This is serious, because JC is gone now.
Yeah,
He's no
he's
longer
gone.
with us, but this baby, who's potentially his biological child, is here, 2 years old, only seen his father one time, and the mother and the grandmother are at odds.
The two women could keep going on and on and on, but there's no time for that. It's time to see what the results say, so Ms. Crow will know if she's getting those death benefits or not. Please read the results out, Judge Lake, and let us resolve this case once and for all.
The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Reinhardt and Thomas Crow is 99.6%. You are related. That is your grandchild. Ms. Reinhardt, you have never laid eyes on your grandchild.
Okay, if you think that was overwhelming enough, you haven't seen this one yet. Once again, thanks to a mom for her masterful art of conflicting narrative. Miss Brister was challenged by Mr. Morris, who firmly declared that he was 100% certain that she was his biological daughter.
I met Mrs. Smith in 1984. At the time, I was involved with a breakdancing crew. When I met Mrs. Smith, this one evening as we were performing, I knew right then I wanted to be with her.
Oh boy, we have the step-up stars, aka the dancing crew. At the time, Miss Smith used to attract a lot of attention, and he had to constantly protect their love. If that's like Mission Impossible. Well, if that was the case, then why did he leave?
You say you were only with her. She said she was only with you.
I came back to town after hearing it from 3 different individuals that she was pregnant with my child at the time, and we stayed in 2 different towns. So when I found out, when I heard it more than once, more than twice, I would say, I left.
However, the story didn't end there. Miss Brister, as a child, had been told that the man on her birth certificate was her father. And it was all done because the baby mama didn't want to be with Mr. Morris. What are we, Boo Boo the Fool? Come on! But wait, listen to this surprise.
I've always known the man on my birth certificate to be my father. I was about 16. Mr. Morris, he came to visit. He introduced himself as my dad. I don't remember the entire conversation that we had, but I do remember saying that he was my dad. He was there for maybe like a week or so, then he left.
So he comes into town. He says, "I'm your father."
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, here's where everything gets even more interesting. Then in 2015, Miss Smith dropped another bombshell suggesting that a deceased man named Mr. Woods could potentially be Miss Brister's father. Mommy, what are you doing? Y'all better just give away the truth. But why so many stories?
I just didn't want her. I was trying to protect her.
Is it because you knew that more than one man could potentially be her father? Or is it because you believed Mr. Morris was her biological father and he was living such a life outside the lines?
Yeah.
Which one?
The way he was living.
But we know when no one understands anything, Judge Lake does. She recognized the profound confusion and emotional toll these stories had taken on the defendant, as all of this has started when the defendant was just 9 years old. Now that's what you call a traumatic childhood.
I need to ask you, what makes you so certain she is your biological daughter?
When I was incarcerated, there was sheriff deputies there from the town where she was living at, which I didn't know nothing about. They presented me with paperwork saying that I was being sued by Internal Revenue for child support. I had the papers looked at by a law clerk.
My question is, if you've known who the daughter is, Mr. Morris, why haven't you reached out to her? But the alleged daddy just spun a tale of saying that he had so much on his plate, as he had experienced to her family members. Well, sir, we don't buy such testimony here. We just take it as someone's been trying to hide from their responsibilities.
Before I would let the police intervene in your life and destroy the image you have of me as your father in your mind, I decided to leave.
So you were saying that you knew you were her biological father, but because of the life you were living at that time,
Yes, ma'am, the
you
criminal
felt
element.
it
Yes, ma'am.
was best
Yes,
to
ma'am.
leave her out of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, man. After almost 3 decades of trying to find the biological father, the moment for Miss Brister had finally arrived. And today, she was about to be reunited with her daddy. Well, I'm still not sure. How about we just take a look at what Judge Lake has to say? Drum roll, please. The DNA results are here.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Morris, you are not her father. I'm very sorry.
Can I hug my daughter?
Absolutely, is that okay?
Adnot here is completely convinced that Mr. Matthews' wife is the reason why he's denying the paternity of her child. She also says that Ms. Matthews was once her best friend, but once she told her that Mr. Matthews had impregnated her, she also went ahead and got pregnant by Mr. Matthew and then married him. They opened their case like this.
Mr. Matthews, you claim you have doubts about being the biological father of Miss Hadnot's son because you say she has a reputation for sleeping around. Now, you state that you and your wife hope to put an end to your connection with her when today's results are revealed.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Miss Hadnot, tell me how this even came to be. So, at first, you were in a relationship with Mr. Matthews.
Then Mr. Matthews confirms that he had a sexual relationship with Ms. Hadnot. He then says that he and his wife were best friends before that. But Ms. Hadnot doesn't agree with this version of events at all.
How long were you?
How long?
Just that one time?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes, ma'am.
So you first had an intimate relationship with Miss Hadnot.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you started one with Miss Matthews,
Well, me and
her best friend.
we've been me and my wife been best friends before that.
Your Honor,
She
he
knew.
said they was cousins. Ma'am, both of them.
Wait a minute, they told you they were cousins?
Yes, she said they was cousins living in the
Excuse me.
same house.
This seems to support Ms. Hadnot's point. She was in a relationship with Mr. Matthews, got pregnant by him, and then Miss Matthews got into the picture. That's the problem here. Can you imagine how betrayed Ms. Hadnot must have felt when she found out that her best friend was having a baby by her baby daddy?
You immediately knew it was Mr. Matthews?
I slept with another dude. I can admit that. But I also,
And
when Jay never asked
how many
me,
days apart did you sleep with this other man?
Oh well, Ms. Hadnot. It looks like it's scientifically impossible to be sure of who the father of this child is, but Ms. Hadnot doesn't want to accept this. She says she knows who she slept with and is certain the father of her child is Mr. Matthews.
She's a gold digger.
So you not only felt like she could have, well, she did sleep with the guy she admits to, you said could be some other people too that she's not admitting to.
Well, if she didn't tell me about that, what else secrets are under the closet? Straight to the point, I want to know if this son is my son.
What is that doubt based on?
From her mother calling me at the hospital.
Okay then, Mr. Matthews. You're a straight shooter. I like that. Mr. Matthews also says that he doubts he's the child's father because he was only called to the hospital after the baby had been born. And not only was he called after the birth, but Ms. Hadnot didn't call him herself.
You
So,
told
babe,
me you had slept with
you
another
didn't
man.
ask.
I'm supposed to know.
I wasn't it. You was a one-night stand, and that's what it was.
Yeah, well, so obviously if I was a one-night stand, who else was a one-night stand? So that's why I have doubt.
So,
I knew that she was pregnant because, like I said, we were friends. We were close. We lived together. We spent most of our time together and everything.
Mrs. Matthews, do you know how unlikely and impossible it is to sleep with someone without protection mistakenly? Mistakenly get pregnant, mistakenly having that baby, and then mistakenly marry them? There's no way you didn't mean that. Nobody can make that many mistakes at a stretch.
my everything. I was there for Terry through all her stuff. Her grandma, through everything. When her grandpa, all that, I was there for Terry.
She was.
No matter what I did and what I did wrong, and she still
And I
slept with
was, and
him.
I was always there.
Ms. Terry Matthews is the sort of friend you never want to have. She might wake up one day and mistakenly set your house on fire, and then come to court and say it was all an innocent mistake and that she didn't mean to pour gasoline on your roof.
Miss Hadnot, your best friend comes to you and says, I'm pregnant by the same guy too? What did you think?
To tell you the truth, Your Honor, and I told her straight up, you know what? You can have that, because I never wanted him.
So what was the big deal in the workplace? You never wanted me. You pushed me
It
away
don't
since
matter. That
high
was my
school.
best friend.
Mr. Matthews is just acting obtuse here. Does he really think that Ms. Matthews and Ms. Hadnot were going to remain best friends after he got them both pregnant? How would that even work? Now, to make things worse, Ms. Matthews tells Mr. Matthews that Ms. Hadnot's baby might not be his.
Never, not once, denied or said that Jamari was not James' son. I get on James when he get to getting in his feelings about his doubts. And I'll get to saying, James, let's go get Jamari. Let's do this and let's do that. I push that. I'm the one that goes to the door, picks
That's
up
the point.
Jamari, and
She
does
shouldn't
that
have
stuff.
To do it.
I've
He should
never
be a man
done.
and come tell me himself.
Well, the
It
type
shouldn't
of
have to go through Terry.
type of
When he
environment they got,
wants
I'm
it,
trying to stay out
he
of
don't
trouble.
even call and ask for my son.
Horrible, horrible behavior from Mr. Matthews. And it gets worse because the 4-year-old in question is old enough to ask serious questions about his father.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, obviously-
He's an innocent child. He didn't do nothing to James or to Terry.
You grew up without your
I didn't
father.
have my father at all while I was growing up, at all, or my mother. So I don't want my son to not have his father. He's supposed to have both of his parents. We need to learn how to get along for Jamari, no matter what. No matter who I'm with, and no matter if he with Terry. We gotta get along.
That's right. There's no reason an innocent child should be suffering because of the mistakes adults make. At this point, you sort of feel sorry for Ms. Hadnot and may think that the child is Mr. Matthews' biological son. Anyway, it's time to see what the DNA results say about all of this.
Mr. Matthews, you are the father.
Thank you. I told you. I hate you, I promise.
Okay, you can hate me.
I'm done. I don't want my son to be around you.
Hold on. Now, Miss Hadnot, you just stood here and said that you want to break the cycle. You didn't have a
broke it.
father in your life.
15 and just bought a new coloring book sitting in your room, deciding which page to color first. And boom! You're told the man you believe to be your dad ain't your daddy. Can you believe the shock? Well, paternity peeps, meet Miss Henderson. She has lived your worst nightmare.
You know, it's lonely. My kids, they want to know their grandparents. My daughter, she tells me all the time, Mom, we're going to find your dad. I'm just ready, but I need to know the truth.
Oh, the wannabe daddy's princess has been living in a shell for years in the quest for her father. She had traveled mountains, deserts, forests. Oh, where am I headed? Sorry. However, her children's desire to know their grandparents had pumped her up. And this time, she was ready for the answers.
I know that she's saying that, you know, he's my father, but I need to know the truth. I don't want to just think that someone's my father. I don't want that. I want to know.
Growing up, you were told Mr. Henderson, this is who you grew up knowing was your father.
Yes, and during the time that I stayed there, I was treated different from my sisters.
Doubts emerged when Miss Henderson was treated differently from her sisters and told she was adopted. Mr. Henderson had suspected her paternity due to her mother's pregnancy after a California visit. Let's listen to what Daddy Henderson had to say about this.
And she was your wife, so why was there any question about Miss Henderson's paternity?
She left me in California, went to visit her mother in Arkansas. When she came back, about a month or two, my other daughter told me that my mom is pregnant.
Surprisingly, Mr. Henderson discovered he was listed as the father on Miss Henderson's birth certificate, though he didn't remember. Talk about being responsible. But I'm still guessing how Mr. Rycraw came into the picture if Mr. Henderson has been all over the mom. Oops, all over the place.
I asked my mom after that about him. She told me, I don't know why William thinks he's your dad. The last time I was with him, I was 18, and I had you when I was 25 or 26.
My sister, when it comes to telling the truth on certain things, they'll beat around the bush. And like she didn't answer him when she came back, she didn't tell her the truth either.
Oh, man. According to Miss Henderson's aunt, she took the confession out of her sister, adding that you can't lie to me because I'm your twin. Okay, so the bottom line is that they were both having affairs during the window of conception. Here, Mr. Rycraw shared his perspective.
I believe she's my daughter because before Karen went back to California, I believe she was pregnant. I believed that she was pregnant. When we met, it was so emotional, but I accepted her because I believed in my heart that she was.
Miss Henderson believed that Mr. Rycraw might be her biological father, as suggested by their mother. But here's the twist. Even though they applied for a paternity test, but never got to read it because the defendant called her claiming I'm not your daddy. What drama!
The probability of paternity was determined to be 0.00%. He's not your biological father.
Get the medic, get the medic.
Someone call the medic, please.
Oh boy, did the twin just faint? Well, we don't want any more dizzy dropping in the courtroom. But what can be done? I mean, everything was just so rough on the family. So how about we just focus on the DNA results and provide Miss Henderson with the closure she's been looking for years.
You are not the father. How are you feeling?
I'm just even more scared.
When you say you're even more scared, why?
What if it's nobody, you know?